Was red mean?
We're broadcasting.
You would think it would be green.
That's what I thought too.
And of course the kid is crying now.
And there's our watch live.
Damn it.
Okay. We're going to get started. Obviously, guys, we're having major challenges today. Just hold on a second.
Oh.
As my throat clearer is like the loudest thing ever.
You call yourself tech support.
Actually, I don't. I'm just the only support.
I psyched everybody out. I made all the announcements. Nope, we're going to do this later. Psych. Psych.
All right. I'm not the tech service you wanted, but I'm the tech service you got.
Okay, I'm going to have to go inside and see ya.
Well, thanks for coming, Nicole.
Sat here for
15 minutes.
30 minutes. We could have done a show. You have present here from a guild member.
Well, try to come back.
I will come back, but could you leave my coffee
I can't do this without you. I'm like Garth in Wayne's World. When Wayne leaves the show and his head explodes. All right, let me get this up here. Okay, so, hey, it's Friday Live, everybody. And we're having some technical difficulties. This is the joy of using something like Mevo, where it's app-based and stuff just doesn't work sometimes. So we are on Wi-Fi, and I don't know how well that's going to work. Sometimes we get cutouts and drops and stuff, but we'll do the best we can. So, hey, it's Friday Live. I'm Mark. Nicole is in there taking care of our kids. Both kids are home today, so we're trying to do the best we can with that. And we're going to talk about some woodworking stuff. So we usually get a few things sent to us, just people are extremely generous. Let's see, I've got one here from Kevin Wixon, and he says, here are some offcuts for offcuts. The eBay comes from a furniture factory in town that has so much of it left over that employees take it home to burn as firewood. Can you believe that? I rescue what I can. I wish it were practical for me to send some larger pieces. These eBay sticks are great when making drawer pulls, handles, and turning your own chisel handles and the like. Here they are over here. Holy moly. Look at this stuff, guys. Oh wait, that's a piece of plywood. This is not the best angle. Here we go. eBay. I'll tell you what, I've never worked with the stuff. I know of it, I've heard of it, and I mean, what he's got here is actually, that's a substantial amount of material. So like he's saying, drawer pulls, something along those lines, that'd be fantastic. So hey, thank you so much, Kevin. That was super generous of you. Someone sent us photocopied pictures. I'll wait till Nicole comes back because I think she knows more about this than I do. So let's see. I'm going to try to grab a couple of questions here for you guys. So much harder when things don't go as planned. Yikes. Okay, I'm scrolling through the questions. Yeah, so here's the deal. We usually take questions from Patreon. That's patreon.com/woodwhisperer. We forgot to put that post up, so we're just going to take all the questions live from the YouTube. So if you're in the YouTube chat. Oh, the HD feed is hard to stream. Well, I mean, I'm still going 1080p, 1080p probably, and it's on Wi-Fi, so hopefully on my end things will hold up for you guys. All right, so I'm waiting for questions. They're just not happening yet. Let's do something a little more interesting. Come with me, friends. Yeah, it is the new camera. I want to show you guys a new toy that I bought. May a Goldie Wilson. So you guys may have heard Festool's new Cyclone came out just recently. That's this bad boy right here. I have some initial impressions and they're not necessarily good. I think it's really cool to have this format. If you are in the world of Festool, you appreciate something that fits on top of a CT vac and does what a Cyclone does. So if you're not familiar, a Cyclone separator is something, it's like almost like a pre-filter in a way. It draws the air in, spins the dust around, the heaviest stuff falls down into a container, and then the exhaust goes into the vac. What this means is in the end, you have almost nothing going to the filter. Generally, it's going to be the smallest, lightest particles, and your filter and filter bag will catch those. So it's nice to do this because you can go, geez, I don't even know how long you would go before you actually need to address what's in the vac. It's such a small amount of material that makes it through. So to empty this thing, you're basically just popping this guy off, and this has a bag in there, so you could reuse the bags as long as they don't get holes in them. But you can then just dump this instead of having to dump the entire flexible bag inside the vac. So it's a great concept. It is not a new concept by any means. In fact, I did a shootout on these in the past. Just find it on the Wood Whisperer website. What did I call it? Cyclone separator shootout. And at the time, this didn't exist. So one thing that was interesting was when I did that review, the one thing I never tested was suction. I was testing separation. I wanted to see how much dust made it through for a certain amount of, a known quantity of dust that was sucked up, how much actually made it through to the filters. And as it turns out, I think the Dust Deputy from Oneida performed the best. And then later, the Clearview was redesigned, and then the Clearview Mini, I think it's called, CV Mini, performs as well as the Dust Deputy. So that's been for years now. Well, this guy comes out, and the first thing I notice when I hook it up is that the suction is not what it usually is. And when I did those other tests on those other Cyclones, it never even occurred to me to test that. And part of the reason was because I didn't notice a loss in suction. You expect at least a little bit with something like this, but not a lot. So when the first thing that I notice is a loss in suction, then I start to get a little bit nervous. I'm like, did I do something wrong? I mean, this is not a complicated thing to hook up. This is just a stand. This is a bucket, and this is where the Cyclone lives. So there's no moving parts. There's really nothing for me to mess up. So I exchanged hoses, I tried different setups, and then I took out my little anemometer, basically measures wind speed, and tested it, and this drops, and the numbers themselves aren't important, it's the relative numbers that are important. So I measured a drop from 14 to 9 on this guy. And then when I tested the Oneida, I have the Clearview Mini, when I tested that one, it was on a different CT, so the numbers are going to be different. But the drop went from 11 to 10. It only dropped 1, whereas this guy dropped from 14 to 9. So, and that's meters per second. So it is a pretty significant drop. And the reason I'm disappointed is because I bought this to put on this mobile unit. This is what I use when I'm cutting with my circular saw on the ground with the track saw cutting plywood. This is actually what I use to clean the shop. And that's the one that gets filled the most. So it would be great to have a system like this. And I'm kind of disappointed because it's just not sucking, it's not sucking as hard as it should. And what I'm used to being able to do with the shop vac, it's really, sort of taken the power down. It's not as effective cleaning the shop. So again, I'm allowing for the possibility that I did something wrong, allowing for the possibility that there's something wrong with this unit, but I've heard from a couple other people who bought one, and they too are having a similar issue with it. I did also, hey, what's happening?
Had to bribe our son.
It's all right, nothing wrong with a good bribe.
You have.
I unplugged you temporarily. And I even talked to a Festool rep, and I was like, have you guys done any comparative analysis? Are you expecting big drops like this because other Cyclones don't exhibit that behavior? And the guy was like, no. So it is what it is until someone tells me it's something different, okay? I get nervous with things like this when I'm the first one to say something bad about a product because...
Like the miter saw?
Yeah, like that Makita miter saw issue, because I always think like I'm the problem, but this is so simple, I just don't know what would be the problem. So here's my final verdict on this for today until I get more information. If you're interested in this and you want this format, well, it's the only thing out there. It's pretty effective at separating the dust. I've got quite a bit in here already from just doing some cleanup. But if you, here's the thing, that drop, I don't know how much that drop is going to affect usage with tools. So if in the end, what actually makes it to the tool end and you're using this hooked up to tools is sufficient to pull the dust, then okay, it is what it is, no problem. But I'm just kind of reporting that there is a significant drop, more than I see with other models. So something to think about. Okay, hold on a second. Let's go back. No, unfortunately, Matt He said swapping out the hose and getting rid of the 90. That's the first thing I thought as well. And I did swap the hose, and I saw very little change. I gave it the biggest hose I have, the 50-something millimeter, and also it's straight. There's no 90-degree. Oops. There's no elbow on it, and I still got the same result because I was actually super excited when I thought of that idea because I'm like, wait a minute, maybe I'll just tell everybody, look, here's the fix. Put a different hose there, and it still didn't work. So,
Am I plugged in now?
you are.
Did you say?
I did the wood.
Okay.
But there's like a paragraph thing, so I'm hoping you read it so that we
Did
don't have
you
to read
did
it.
you see where that wood came from? Some of it.
Yeah,
That was really cool. Did you read
It
the
is.
whole letter?
Mostly.
He's a mentor, and he also sent
Yeah.
some to his mentee.
Yeah.
We got something from Jake Belser.
Sure.
Belser.
Besler.
He's the Besler.
Besler.
The Weekend Wood Warrior. He's in Illinois, and just says, "Dear Marc and Nicole, I wanted to say thank you for all the content that you've shared with us." He's always been interested in woodworking, and he shared some of his pictures, and he made a TARDIS. From Doctor Who.
Oh, nice.
I thought that was really cool. And his tattoo, I think that's his tattoo.
Just so you know, no one can see that.
Oh, got it.
We have the best view in the
The
house.
best
Nicole.
view, yeah. So, here's his TARDIS. There it is. So,
This is a great tattoo. Nicole is like, do you know what that is? I'm pretty sure this is Final Fantasy, and that's a chocobo.
Oh, yeah. That
Right?
does look like a chocobo.
Okay.
Well, cool. But he just wanted to share some of his woodworking with you, and he sent me 2 coins. He is a retired Navy, the USS John L. Hall, and the USS Nassau
Nice.
coins. So thank you, Jake. I will be
Thanks,
sending
Jake.
you a coin as well.
Thank you for your service, brother.
Yes, thank you very much. So there you go.
Okay, and there was one more thing I forgot.
Oh, what's that? Oh, yeah, I saw that when that came in.
Yeah, so this gentleman, and here's the thing, Instagram, it's very difficult for me to find a conversation I had 2 weeks ago in private messages. So I'm pretty sure he got in touch with me on Instagram and said that he made these things. They're called the Oscar Square, and it's a setup square or a assembly square. So they're just made out of plywood. It almost kind of looks like Baltic birch. I don't think it is, though. Who knows? Either way, it's stable. These are dead on 90. I'm sure these are CNC cut, and they've got these big gaps in here, so you could use any type of clamp, spring clamp, or whatever to help hold your assemblies nice and square. Now, other companies have these, but they're usually made out of, let's see, Rockler has some plastic, big plastic ones. I think Woodpeckers sells, I think it's Woodpeckers. They have ones that are that aluminum material, and that's great. But these, you get a 4-pack all together. They're nice and lightweight, and they're really effective. Can you look at the price on this? I'm curious, because that would be the selling point on something like this. Like, why
What's
would
it called? A Fastcap? Oscar?
Oscar Square.
Oscar
just
Square.
Oscar Square is going to get you what you need. I'm curious what the 4-pack costs, because I'd have to imagine these are much more cost-effective than those metal solutions. Yeah, there you go.
This one? The blog.
Oh crap! It's a blog post instead of the product.
Here it
There
is. $20.
Okay, that's not bad at all. $20 and you get 4 of them. Not sure what the plastic ones are at Rockler, but I can tell you the squares from Woodpeckers are going to cost you a whole lot more than $20.
We should add that to our holiday gift guide.
The Oscar Square?
Sure, why not?
Yeah. And I did actually take my best square, and because that's how I am, double check this and make sure it was dead on square. Sure enough, it is. So not too bad.
Did you announce the start of our sale?
No announcement.
No announcement.
I was crapping on Festool. I was very busy dropping a
See
hot
what
load
happens
on
when
Festool.
what happened?
Boy, the way I just worded that was really
Yeah,
terrible.
that was terrible. So a couple of announcements. We ran some sales last year on completed guild projects, and we thought we'd do it again this year. We're pushing it out. I'm calling it the 12 weeks till Christmas.
We had to word it carefully.
We,
Last year it was the 12 weeks of Christmas,
Yeah.
and it's like people were, you know how nobody likes to go to Home Depot and see the trees before
I
it's
love
even
it.
Halloween.
I don't understand people freaking out when they see that stuff.
But people get upset.
I love it.
People get internet upset.
I know. But I love it. So this weekend, shaker table, 30% off right now. The price is already reflecting, so it's not like you need a code or
no
anything.
coupon codes. It's there. It's ready to go. The shaker table. Did you say it was the shaker?
I did
Okay,
say
so the shaker table is actually the first project that we did in the guild,
Yeah.
and it was one that we did in collaboration with a bunch of people. We did it
Mm-hmm.
with. It was where the
It was a
woodworkers fighting cancer
Yeah.
started with Dwayne Moore, who has since passed away. But there's a great video that we have on that showing all of the people who jumped in. And I think to this day, no project has as many builders in the gallery as that one because of what we did with it.
Yeah.
So there really is no better place to begin as a quote unquote fine woodworker than a shaker table. Just in terms of all the techniques. I mean, you've got the tapered legs, you've got drawer construction, dovetails. I showed 2 different versions of it to make it, so we could do a little variety there. Great project, and it really was one that established what the guild was going to be in this world of free content everywhere. What would a paid thing look like? This is what it looks like. It also features Nicole and I dressing like shakers in our best period garments that we could find at the time, right?
Oh yeah, so there you go. It's on sale. Next week, I think I'm going to put the Barrister Bookcase on sale. I love that project. Anytime I see someone just posted in the Guild Facebook group, they just finished it, and it just looks good.
Yeah.
I just like it. So
Hey,
that's
quick
what
question for you. Maybe a quick show of hands. We usually do a holiday party, right? We've gotten away from that
Yeah, we
in
haven't
recent
done
years.
it in a long time.
And at the holiday party, it's live like
Oh,
this,
yeah.
and we do some giveaways, right? We pretend we're
Are
Santa
you going
Claus.
to do this to me again?
No, I'm trying to figure out what our plan is.
Okay.
We also want to do a blast from the past kind of holiday video,
Yeah.
where the 2 of us sit and have a little fireside chat, and tell you guys like basically what we recommend as a top 10 gift list.
Yeah,
Right?
the idea has always been, give this to your family member if they need help.
Chevrolet Diesel says the woodpecker squares cost around $80.
Oh, wow.
And I think you're probably at best going to get a pair of those. So I guess my question is, do we want to do one of those live Christmas
I would like
parties?
yeah, we can do a live Christmas party.
Well, we got to do Friday Live anyway.
Exactly.
One of those will just be a Christmas
We'll
one.
just wear a Santa hat.
Yeah, Santa hat, yeah. I'll put lights on the wall behind us.
Yes,
It'll be a good time.
But I think we should do our gift guide. Uh-oh, kids are crying. We should do the gift guide separately and just kind of...
Yeah, 2 separate
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do some more questions. I have no questions.
Keith Dunn says... Sorry. Kenneth. He made the pizza peel with old wooden scraps left over from his shop. Somehow, after a few days after he made it, one of the boards got a small crack. Not at a glue joint. Any idea what he did wrong?
Well, it's really hard to tell unless I actually see this thing, and even then I'm just
it.
making my best guess. Yeah, I got to rub my hands all over it. It sounds, anytime wood cracks like that, a lot of times wood just has built-in stresses in it that after a certain amount of treatment, planing, sanding, all that stuff are being brought into a different environment, like coming from the shop into the house. You could potentially have, wood movement issues as well as checks, cracks, things like that developing. It just sounds like the board might have just had some inherent instability. So pinpointing the exact cause, I'm going to say it's probably the wood itself.
Mateo's pushing. Ava's new thing is everybody's pushing her.
Everybody's pushing, including Dougie.
The questions are right here.
Okay, so I'm going to grab questions from Nicole's Lepatapa. B. Walker says, do you have any issues with fine dust getting inside of your house from the shop? I have a basement shop and the furnace is there. Any concerns with air filter intake spreading to the rest of the house? Well, that is definitely something to be concerned about. If you're collecting the dust well and everything is, you're keeping the stuff out of the air in the first place, you shouldn't have a big problem. I would definitely recommend looking into some kind of air cleaner if you don't already have it. So dust collection at the source is the number one thing. Try to keep it from getting in the air in the first place. Anything that escapes into the air, it's a good idea to have one of those filters mounted somewhere so that it actually will actively clean the air. That should help. I personally don't have any issues. My shop is in a garage. The only connection to the house, it doesn't share any kind of HVAC. There's no utility stuff in this garage. Everything for our house is in the basement, like water heater and stuff like that. So the only connection to the house is that door over there. Most of the time the door is closed, and when it's open, it's only open for short periods of time. So there's really no way for stuff to get into the house, thankfully. But again, add the proper air filtration, collect the dust at the source, and it should, improve your situation. Everything good?
Man.
Okay.
It doesn't get as real as this.
We're a real family trying to do real things.
Alex Kilpatrick says, can the Barrister Bookcase be made using glass sliding panels instead of maple? The panels on the side. So he wants to see through instead of the front being glass.
Oh, I see.
The side panels.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no reason you can't. I mean, you could treat, most of the time what I use there is some kind of a ply, or if it's solid wood, I'm leaving expansion area there, but all you have to do is treat it like you were doing a door or a window with glass, and you could definitely have those as glass side panels. Is these a side or slide?
I thought he said side. Yeah, side.
Side panels.
Side
okay,
panels.
Cool. I didn't get Alex.
It's
Same one?
Alex asked too.
Okay.
He said, do you ever use furniture type joinery in general construction projects? For example, using loose tenon joinery to repair something like posts for desk railings.
I haven't, but not because I didn't want to, but because I don't really have much of that DIY stuff to do. But yeah, I mean, if I know a furniture joint could improve the durability of something, or like a regular DIY thing, absolutely I would do it, but I haven't had that opportunity. Kids.
Anthony, can I just mute?
You can't mute the actual child because the door's open.
Robert Randall says, what's your ideas for the upcoming bunk bed? I'm getting ready to start one, but I might have to wait for the project in the guild. Is it going to be in the guild?
It's not a guild project.
It's not going to be a guild project.
It would be like an upcoming free site project.
Yep.
I'm having a little bit of difficulty with the bunk bed, and just because, I've even seen some of the best stuff out there really just kind of looks like, and I don't know that that's avoidable. The bunk bed I'm looking to do is one that accommodates both a full-size bed on the bottom and then a twin size at the top. So the full-size bed, they're perpendicular to each other. The full size goes in long ways. There's going to be steps on the left side. This is a pretty typical design. Nothing here is novel. On the right side is going to be storage for books, probably some drawers, and the stairs themselves will have drawers as well. So essentially you've got three pieces of furniture. You've got the stair assembly, you've got the top bunk assembly, and then you've got essentially it's like a bookcase on the other side. So getting them all to play well together, if you go for like, maybe frame and panel on some of the stuff for like the bookcase, you want that look. How do you make that gel nicely with the bunk on the top? If you just do big fat legs, right? And a lot of times these designs will only have the legs on one side. They'll be nice and short, and on the other side they're full length, because on this side it's sitting on top of a case. But maybe you want the legs to go all the way down to the ground on all sides. It's like getting them to mesh together is the trick, and I'm just trying to find an elegant way to do it, and it's difficult. So I'm going to keep looking, and I've got a general idea. I sketched up something very rough, but I'm still not 100% sure where it's going to go. So that's the current status. In fact, after we're done here, I'm probably going to go pick up some lumber. I'll be using alder for this project, and if I'm going to do really thick legs on this, I'm going to need some, I might even get 10/4 for that if I can. Van Overloop says, would you make the bunk removable to be used as a standalone bed? I don't think so, but maybe. I don't really know. Again, the challenge with that is, how do you make this thing not look like a Lego kit? One of the ways to do that is to make some of these parts integral, make them mesh together, make the legs of the bunk be part of the case, as opposed to just having the case popped in as an afterthought. Those are things that make this less useful in terms of switching its configuration. But that is something I'll look at. If there's a really good, smart way to do that works into the design, that sounds like a better option than not doing it, because you never know. At some point, you might just want that twin bed separate. I know for me personally, I don't think we're ever going to need that. If anything, if Mateo ever says, I don't want a bunk bed anymore, he's probably just going to go to the full-size bed, right? So he's not going to want that twin.
You're still talking about the bunk bed, huh?
Can you believe it?
Anthony Tobias, what is the point of owning 3 different small hand planes the 3 Deadpool is hanging from? Wouldn't the rabbiting block plane be perfect for everything?
Nope. The rabbiting block plane is good, and I recommend it as a multitasker if you don't already have a block plane. What the rabbiting block plane does is, see the sides are open here, and the blade goes right to the edges. This way you can clean up tenons, you can clean up rabbets, you can clean up like anything where you really just need to get to the side, so you can do shoulders even for your tenons and not just the cheeks. So it's good, but it's not the best at what it does. It's a multitasker, master of none sort of thing. So I have it because it's expensive and I invested in it. But realistically, what I actually wind up using more is a combination of a standard block plane, probably low angle block plane, and a shoulder plane. I like the shoulder plane for those tasks where you have to get up against an edge, the ones that require that property of the rabbiting block plane. So yes, it can work, but like in most cases, for instance, the jack plane, right? The jack plane, in some situations, I even wrote an article or a video about this being the only plane you need. That's because it does so many things. But if you really want to get down into the details and get the best results, chances are you're not going to want to use a jack plane on everything. You're going to want to get 2 or 3 other planes that do those jobs better, right? So that's the story behind a rabbiting block plane.
We have a super chat from Robert Wells, and he says, "Coffee time!
Woohoo!
Coffee time!
I think we're going to need
Coffee
more.
time."
This
I
large
know,
might not
I
be
know.
enough.
We have a question in super chat from Jennifer Lowry. I'm making picture/mirror frames for my first craft show using 5-inch wide stock. What is a good alternative to splines to reinforce the wide miters? Some of my designs make splines harder to include.
Well, that's a hard thing to answer without knowing what it is about the design that makes a spline difficult to include. Most of the time, if you're going to do some kind of reinforcement, it involves this very similar activity at the joint, to like the same way you would make a spline. You're cutting into the end grain to do something. So whether you're using biscuits there, dowels, domino, running the actual spline through the outside corner, assembling your frame first, and then cutting the spline, cutting it ahead. I mean, there's so many ways. Keys are what you might also find. I think that's what they call it.
Keys.
What's from the outside? I remember we had a whole debate about this when I was writing it for the book. But either way, I can't give you a firm answer on that because I don't know what restrictions you have in place. But realistically, there are only so many ways to reinforce a miter.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing to maybe look into is a half lap miter. It's a more difficult joint to execute, but you can jig it up in a router, and once it's jigged up, it's pretty easy. But Google half lap miter, and that's a way to actually get a half lap joint that appears like a miter, and it's incredibly strong because you've got long grain to long grain glue there, and that needs no reinforcement.
There you go. Mark?
Yes?
You asked for, not you.
Oh.
Mark Sherwin. Not that it's any of my business, but it seems as though you and Nicole have been much more snarky with each other lately. Play nice. LOL.
Whatevs.
I love the comments that come in that you cut me off or I
Right.
cut you off.
Mark always cuts. I want to hear more from you. Mark always cuts you off. You know, tell Nicole that she talks too much.
What you're experiencing is not between me and Mark. It's between our kids.
Us and our kids.
And the technology. And, stress levels kind of get high.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's always
I
good.
know this face.
It's always good to judge the strength of a marriage 1 hour a week.
Yes.
That's what I always say.
Kevin Hahn, Mark and Nicole, you've been in Denver for almost 2 years.
Yep, we have.
I'm so happy we're here. What's one good and one bad surprise about moving to Denver?
Well, the good stuff is like all the obvious stuff. The change of seasons.
Yeah.
This time of year, it's
I love
flipping gorgeous.
Yeah,
We've got a road like on the way to Home Depot that I get to enjoy all the time. That's just lined with gorgeous trees. And this time of year, you've got the mountains in view at the back and all the different colors of the leaves changing color. It's absolutely gorgeous. So my positive is definitely the seasons. The only negative, because there's not many, I got to stretch for
Maybe
this
a
one.
little bit dry.
The only negative, no, we were in Arizona.
I know.
The only negative is how much the soil moves.
Oh, yeah.
That has proven to be a thing that I think is going to cost us a lot of money over time fixing things.
Just stuff
because
shifting.
The soil shifts. Even in the shop, there's a part where one of the slabs was rising up. It's getting even worse since we've been here. Pipes, right? So that if you have a irrigation pipe for the water system, it's powering or giving water to the irrigation. That is in an area where the soil is sinking down. So what happens to those pipes? They start going with it. Same thing with our gas line, which makes me real nervous. So these are things we have to keep an eye on just because the soil is so volatile. It's crazy.
I would agree on that one.
No other negatives?
I can't think
Anything?
of any. I mean, I feel like I've gotten sick a lot here, but you know what?
Not really.
I mean, I would have gotten sick. I
would have been happening in Arizona.
I would have got appendicitis in Arizona too.
Right.
Got a super chat from Josh Duplin. Said, "Happy Friday."
Happy Friday to you.
I was like, "Wait, is today Friday?" It feels like Saturday for me.
It's been a weird week.
It's such a weird week.
There's no pancakes. It's definitely not Saturday.
Kevin Windsor also did a super chat, but didn't say anything. Kevin, if you have a question or want to say anything, just drop it in the main chat room, and I will pull it. We also have a question from...
Here, pause for a second. One thing I want to explain. If you're watching this live, the YouTube chat, they've enabled, was actually a while ago, they enabled this thing called Superchat. And sometimes folks are very generous and will throw a couple bucks our way. But what it does is it highlights your question and it ensures...
It takes it. So as I'm looking at chat, I mean, things are going pretty fast and I'm trying to grab and I'm cutting and pasting. Super Chat is nice because it just throws it into a repository that I can access.
It's a good way for you to button line. That's what it comes down to.
Basically.
And just because we can't fathom not answering a question from someone who was kind enough to throw a couple bucks our way, we answer all those questions.
Yes.
So I'm not saying you have to do that, but if you're wondering what's going on with that thing, that's what's happening.
If you come at the end of the show and you just throw a question in the chat room, it's not going to...
It's a good chance we're not going to be able to answer
it. Probably won't be answered because there's already been probably 5 to 10 people that were at the beginning of the show, and those I pulled those already.
And so thank you to everybody who does that. It's actually becoming, like Patreon is really helpful. It's actually becoming really helpful and encouraging. I mean, it's weird to say that, but sometimes numbers can help with encouraging the time investment for things like this.
The snarkiness.
And the degree of snarkiness. More money equals more snark.
Oh, let's see. I got a question. I had a question. Mitchell Roke. I'm looking to buy a big bandsaw, and some have foot brakes and some don't.
Oh, yeah.
What's the... I'm like, I love that I just went, a foot brake.
You know,
a foot brake.
A little foot brake. They go like this.
What is the need for having a foot brake?
The need is convenience and safety. Most of the time, you could just let the thing spin down. But think about it. A lot of times, that thing is up this high. And remember, this is the tool that they use to cut your meat at the butcher shop, right?
Oh, yeah.
The butcher shop still exist?
Yeah.
I know there's one in Arizona, right?
Yes. Every single supermarket.
I should really be friends with a butcher.
You should go to the grocery store sometime.
No, I'm talking like Costco. Like you always see behind the glass. Anyway, point is, they use these things to cut flesh and bone and probably do a real good job on your hand if it goes through. But a lot of times you have a lot of that blade exposed. So let's say you just turn it off, you walk away, and you don't remember that it's on, and you go, oh, look at all that dust on that table. Right? Lots of bad things can happen. So the worst thing you could do is let a blade just sit there and spin freely and walk away from it. A brake is great because as soon as you're done with the cut, you can have your hands on the workpiece, and you don't even have to turn it off. See, that's the other safety factor. If I'm pushing a piece through and I'm kind of in a precarious position, the last thing I want to do is reach and hit the off button. That pedal is there for you to hit it to not only slow it down, but to completely stop it and turn it off. It's an off button. So if you can, it's a great safety add-on for a bandsaw. So Peter's giving me crap because I haven't put my sweet handle on my coping saw yet. I'll get to it, man. Don't rush me.
Don't rush me, man. Don't rush me.
Don't class me, bro. But I've been working on free content for you, Peter. So back off. Hey, Peter, I hope your dad's okay. We didn't touch base on that. I know there was an issue there, but I hope everything's okay
too. I was bummed that he was in Denver for a while.
He was going to stop by.
But you know what? I know Peter. He will be back.
He'll be back.
He'll be back.
He's out. He's not home more than he's home.
I know, right?
So.
We got a question from Randy Owens. Would you talk about the finish and its importance to making a quality product? I believe the finish is either the most important or one of the key to any project. Am I on the right track? And to follow up, Phil C says, how many coats of, since we're talking about finish, how many coats of general finishes armor seal would you normally apply before rubbing out to gloss?
Okay. So Randy, totally agree with you, man. This is something that I learned early on in my woodworking, was that one of the first things that happens when really anyone, a non-woodworker or a woodworker, sees a piece of furniture, what do? They go,
touch it.
Like that, right? So if that finish is real crappy and has grit in it and little bumps and little pieces of stuff that was flying around the shop when it was finished, that's bad. And it really is, granted, it's something that you shouldn't notice, right? If you notice it, then it's probably bad. And it can ruin a great piece of furniture. So from a distance, sure, it looks fine, but then you go up and it's all gritty and doesn't feel good, or even the finish itself is just streaky and not clear. That could just be problematic. So I totally agree with you. It's as important as the construction. And since a lot of people have difficulty with it, they either push it aside, and figure, well, I'll avoid, like Shannon, for instance, is a good example. Not that he can't do finishing, I don't mean to imply that, but he puts his finishing off. So most people don't really enjoy that process. For me, it's something that I grew to love, and if you don't like it, I suggest finding a finish that's a little easier to apply and one that you can get success with right off the bat, right? And that'll give you encouragement to try new finishes. So Randy, totally agree with you. Understanding finishing and at least coming up with one finish that you know how to use, that's your go-to on all your projects. Yeah, master that one finish, and things will be okay. You'll at least have that to fall back on. As far as the armor seal, if you're gonna rub it out to a gloss, I don't know, I've never done that, honestly. I find that right off of the pad, as you might say, the finish is usually glossy enough. So if you're going to do that, the whole point with rubbing out is that you are abrading the surface to create a high shine. When you're talking about a polyurethane, we're talking about layers of plastic. So polyurethane is not really a good candidate for rubbing out. I mean, it can be done, but it's not the best candidate because it's a little more flexible, and also we have that layering issue. So when you're abrading the surface to give it a high shine, you are actually removing finish. That's part of the process. If you go too far and you burn through that top layer, you expose the layer below and you get what they would call a witness line or a witness mark, where you can actually see a dividing line between the two layers. So it's a little bit scary to do that with poly, because it's not like shellac and lacquer where each layer kind of burns and fuses and sort of becomes part of the layers before, and then when you're rubbing it out, it's just like rubbing one giant layer of finish. Poly is those individual film layers, so you have to be really, really careful about it. So I would say if I was going to do this, I would probably have at least 5 coats, maybe 6, and on the last coat, I would do my best to try to apply a pretty thick film. I'd try to leave a lot of finish. I'd be using a brush, a sponge brush, some kind of applicator that laid down a good thick finish, because that's the one that I risk burning through.
There you go. We have a question from Douglas. I am going to be putting my tools in storage for a while we build a new house. What can I do to make sure the cast iron surfaces don't rust?
There's a product out there. We've talked about it on Woodtalk a lot. Is it Cosmoline? Chat room, correct me if I'm wrong.
Cosmo.
It's basically the schmutz that they put on cast iron, and when you buy your tools.
The goopy stuff?
Yeah, it's really nasty stuff.
It is called that.
But it basically is covering it in like this tarry, gooey substance.
I wonder if they have it on Amazon and if I can put it in our store.
Sure. So it's a coating that will protect it, and it's how they ship these things from the manufacturer. So that's always a good option. I also found that T9 Bow Shield is a really good product for rust prevention, but it's also incredibly sticky. So if you put on a nice coat of that and you don't buff it out and take it off, it's nasty, but it will work. That's one of the options. If I were doing this, I would probably put like T9 Bow Shield down and then maybe put a layer of some kind of plastic wrap. Like a saran wrap type thing might be a little bit too thin, but if you put some kind of a plastic on there, this way, as sticky as it is, stuff won't settle into it. and get all gross.
There's also, so I'm looking on Amazon and they have the Cosmoline, but it's a spray. The goopy one they have.
Yeah, but a spray would be good too.
Yeah, Goodson is a
2-pound container.
a 2-pound container.
So that you can just slap it on there and rub it in. Yeah, I would think spray would actually be the better choice.
Yeah, so this one is the Cosmoline Heavy Respirator.
Military grade.
Military grade.
You know, I've heard people make jokes about military grade.
Yeah.
And they're like, look, I'm in the military and a lot of this stuff is junk. Like, so military grade doesn't mean a whole lot to me.
Yeah. Hey,
I've never been in the military.
I'm going to add this to our Amazon store, which, by the way,
Oh,
I will
good
be
thinking.
creating our holiday gift guide.
Special category
Yeah,
there.
there's some cool categories
What's the
already.
URL again for that? Why can't they let us do a custom URL?
There is a custom.
No, a redirect
I don't know.
that
but
we can remember.
It's amazon.com/shop/the Wood Whisperer.
The Wood Whisperer.
I'm pretty sure it's the Wood Whisperer. Yep, it is.
Yeah, okay. So that's a good place to go to get some
Yeah.
ideas, things we talk about, things you heard me mention. Chances are
Some of Mark's
they're in there.
shirts. I have a category for Mark's shirts.
There's Mark's hand tools, Mark recommends. There's a lot of Mark on this.
Yeah.
Mark's power tools, Mark's glue, Mark's bookshelf, and a woodworker gift guide. And then we'll have the holiday gift guide there as well.
So there you go. There you go.
Someone says, true statement, Mark. I think that's about the military thing. See, I kind of know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Even though I've never been in the military.
We have another super chat. Russell Farmer. By the way, one of the things we love about you guys is the fact that you are real.
We don't get any more real than this, my friend.
I confirmed it.
Yes, we're very, very real.
Triple J Customs. Jose.
Jose!
Hola, Spags. Here's for your coffee run.
Jose, you're far too generous, sir.
He is.
Thank you so much.
And Ben, our friend Ben, for Mark to fix his camera issues.
Alex Kilpatrick wants to do a DNS redirect for us. We know how to do that.
Yeah, it's not allowed.
It's not a question of how you do the redirect. It's can we do the redirect? Amazon has very specific rules on how you participate in their affiliate program, and redirects in most cases are not allowed.
No, big no. We have a question from Craig Story. I will be making a blanket rack where the shelves will be dadoed into the 4 legs. Shelves are about 18 inches wide, legs are 5 inches wide at the dado. If I use a dowel through the leg, do I need to worry about movement?
You will, because if you're, and again, this is something that a visual is very helpful with, but if you are suspending a solid wood panel between 4 legs and doing a dowel connection, if that panel moves, it's going to move the legs with it. So if those legs don't have a way to move, and they probably don't, what you'll wind up doing is possibly flexing the legs out slightly. All right, and depending on your situation, it may or may not be a problem. Excuse me, depending on the stability of the house, the type of material, the cut. If you're going to do that, I would definitely suggest going with a quarter sawn cut so that you limit the amount of movement that this thing has to see. But yes, as long as you have everything in a fixed position, trapped between 4 legs, movement will be a problem.
Will be a problem.
It will.
Okay. Phil C says, thanks for the thorough answer. Happy Friday. Thanks,
You got it, Phil. Anytime.
Let's see. Danny Coy. Yay, it works. Hi. Hi, Danny.
Oh, look. Hey, Danny. See? We weren't kidding. By the way, I do want to thank a couple people on Patreon.
Yeah, we have a couple of new Patreon.
Cody Wells and McGuire Irvine.
Cody, is it Cody? Yeah, Cody, I will be sending you your rewards here shortly. I usually do it at the first of the month, so since you came in, it usually goes out like November 1-ish. So he gets a coin.
Nice.
So
I can't remember the guy's name. I just saw it pop up, but he said the military contracts, he said, remember, they always go to the lowest bidder.
Oh, that's true. Let's see. I think I have one more question. Douglas. Oh, we already did Douglas. Maybe I don't have any questions. Oh, Alex Kilpatrick says, are you planning on adding in the near future more techniques to the guild?
I don't know. I mean, it is something that we want to do.
The techniques, though, are in the projects.
Yes,
right?
That's always been the general way that we do things, is techniques in context of a project. So we have thought about how great would it be to kind of have a library of standalone techniques. A lot of it would definitely wind up being redundant, but at the same time, it still could be very useful. So I don't know for sure what we're going to do with that. That is something that we probably will look into. And we may, I mean, especially things like turning, for instance. You know, there something with Ashley, we might wind up doing more specific technique-focused things because it lends itself well in the world of turning. But I don't know. We'll have to see. It's something I want to do. It's just a matter of time investment. Typically, right now, I'm focused on guild content, and then when I have my free time, then I'm focused on free content. So if I start adding the technique stuff in there, then it's like, well, when am I going to do my free content? So that's what makes it difficult. So each project, we do list what you will learn. And when we talk about those things in the builds, it's not just kind of like, oh, okay, make your mortise and then put the tenon in it. It's not fast like that. It's actually taking our time and talking about each individual project as if you've never seen any of the other videos. So look in those lists, and if there's a technique you want to learn and it's covered in that build, chances are you're going to get a pretty good tutorial on it.
Jeff Anderson, speaking of the guild, will the gaming coffee table project show up anywhere?
I get so many questions about that thing.
Plans on the free site, add on to the gaming dining table project.
I don't know, I still have not decided how I'm going to handle the people who already bought the dining table.
Yeah.
But it will be a plan that's for sale, independent of the guild, and I don't know yet what I'm going to do. I'm still waiting for time.
Maybe we'll talk about my ideas.
Have to talk about it.
Okay. Andrew, I was thinking of doing a Ruobo workbench. How long would you make it, and would you use soft or hardwood? He's already made it. It's right here.
We're standing here. I think it's 70 something inches. I don't have a tape measure. See a tape measure anywhere?
We took them to the furniture store.
Go to the guild site and look in the store for the split top Ruobo workbench. I believe we list the dimensions right there on the sales page. Those are the recommendations. Like that works for me. That was what was advised to me. Benchcrafted came up with the plan initially, and I thought it was a good size. Some people like longer, some shorter. Kind of depends on your needs. As for the material, hands down, a hardwood I think is best. That doesn't mean you can't use certain soft species. I usually recommend that you build a bench out of a wood that you can get in the quantity you need for a price you can afford.
So the Ruobo workbench will be one of the projects that will go on sale in these next coming 12 weeks.
In the 12 weeks to Christmas.
I haven't hammered down which week it is since it was kind of like,
and now you're going to get tons of questions about when is that one going to be
But
on sale.
here's the thing, talking about wood, if you don't live near like a good dealership, or if you find your wood is expensive, check out Bell Forest, because they're running a sale right now, 15% off, and they have kits for Ruobo workbenches, the one from the guild. There's no reason why you couldn't price that out there too. So I think they have a hard and a soft maple package.
Oh, no kidding. Okay. Yeah, soft maple would be fine, but not soft wood.
Right.
Different thing. And someone corrected me, I think it was Eric, 87 inches is the length on this one. And I think Matt sent in a super chat and said, "Don't class me, bro." If you guys haven't heard the last Woodtalk, you probably should go look at it. It's like woodtalkshow.com, and the last episode we talked about the whole Greg Klassen debacle.
Pickles.
No, that's Clausen. This is Klassen. Yeah, see? He said, "Don't class me, bro."
We got a super chat from Randall Schultz. My walnut/curly maple Lazy Susans are cupping after about 2 weeks after the finish. What's the deal?
Well, again, this is like the guy who made the pizza peel. It's hard for me to know for sure. Wood, you got to remember, wood is a natural product. It's not going to behave like a piece of plastic or a piece of MDF necessarily. Things may change. Properties, or the properties of the wood itself, change depending on the conditions it's in. Also, how it was milled. Sometimes people have a habit of maybe taking too much material off of one side of the board as they're milling it down, which doesn't let it sort of lose its moisture evenly, and that causes cupping. The wood itself sometimes, this is why I don't like making cutting boards for people, because I feel like the failure rate on cutting boards is far too high for me to give them away as gifts. When I clamp everything as good as I can and I think everything's perfect, and then suddenly this end grain cutting board is bowed. I don't like doing that. It's just the nature of the beast sometimes. So I can't tell you what went wrong, but it could be how it was clamped. It could be, just some weird thing with the wood itself. A lot of times when people clamp up a panel, and I assume you've got multiple species, so you're doing some kind of a glue up, you clamp it, it starts off flat initially, but then it bows. a lot of that can actually happen if you are clamping in such a way that it induces a little bit more pressure on one side, compared to the other, which is why you see a lot of people flipping their clamps. So you have a couple clamps facing up, and then between them, clamps facing down. That's to equalize that clamping pressure and keep it flat. So that's kind of the way you stack the cards in your favor. But if it's, it's again hard to say. So.
One final question from Andy Sims. Any plans on getting carving projects in the guild? Mary May? Well, Mary May has her
She's got an online school.
We've approached her, but she has her own thing. There is one guy that I would love to get in the guild. Love it. I sent you a message about him. He's in our woodworking community on Facebook. He is a former Disney Imagineer. He carved all of the Disneyland signs. So the Pooh's Corner. His name is Raymond Kinman. It's just, he does amazing. I'm just like blown away by it.
It's certainly.
I would love to somehow, well, I know how to connect with him. He's on Facebook.
If I could just find this guy.
Find where he is. He's going to be on Scott Phillips' show.
Oh, okay. Nice.
What's that show called?
The
American Woodworker?
American Woodshop, I think.
Woodshop.
Yeah.
So he's going to be on there, but I would love to get him in because he teaches.
That's awesome.
The classes too. So.
Yeah, and to step back with the Mary May thing, I've said this in the past. I generally will not have someone in the guild if they've already got their own venue for paid content, only because I don't want to mix that stuff. If she's going to put her effort into a video, she probably would want to put it into her own website. So, and I would rather find someone who is not as easily accessible in a teaching format.
Online.
Because that person becomes much more interesting if they're new to us. Gives them some exposure and then exposes us to someone who's not already out there telling everybody, how to do things.
All right.
We're good?
I think the kids, they're moving.
Oh, the kids are moving. We better run.
Is there anything else that we forget? Sale ends Sunday night for the shaker table, and then the following Friday, the Barrister Bookcase will go on sale.
And a little hint, I usually don't change the sale and turn it off until I wake up on Monday morning.
He's a little lazy.
So you might be able to sneak it in on a Monday morning, but don't email me on Monday and say, I tried to do it on Monday morning and you said, no, the sale ends Sunday night. Okay?
Okay.
All right, well, hey, thanks for...
Oh, there's one last minute super chat.
Hold on, I just zoomed in on nothing. Go ahead, sorry.
Strat EC40 says, hi, thanks for sharing your experiences with us.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thanks for hanging out.
What's this, Randall Schultz? Refresh.
Oh, another one? You guys.
Yeah, you got to stop. We can't stop the show unless you guys stop.
That's a $5 answer. I'm thinking horse's butt. What does that mean?
Horse butt strop, maybe?
No. Is that a wood talk?
We talk about horse butt all the time on Woodtalk, so it's got to be a Woodtalk reference. Well, thank you, Randall. I really appreciate it. Good luck with your lazy Susans.
I love his little icon.
All right, I think we're good then, right?
I think so.
I'm going to go get some more coffee.
We'll be back Friday.
I'm going to get coffee and some wood. Okay, thanks for everybody. We'll catch you next time.
See ya. Bye.
Peace out.
Peace out.
Whoops. Look, I keep zooming in. Mark. Nicole. Mark.
That's enough.
Nicole.